Hi, welcome back to the shop and welcome to part 2 of the Kliperizing of the Sidewinder X2 live stream series. I'm your host Matthew. Behind the camera is my producer wife Emily. Say hello.
Hello.
She's going to be manning the chat and doing all the technical gizmo-y stuff on that side while I do the tech-y gizmo-y stuff over here. You're welcome to chat amongst yourselves and relay any questions toward me. If you're new here, welcome. Also, hit that like button, feed the algorithm, and if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe. Excuse me. Last week we left off trying to get the firmware file off of the Raspberry Pi, and that's kind of where I got stuck. So I've been tinkering with it this week and figured it out, and I actually got the printer running and started working on tuning my configuration and macros and stuff like that, which I have in a link in the video description, my current configuration. And I will update that as need be if there's any bugs or anything like that. That's easy for me to update. So, but we're going to kind of continue where we left off last time. Going somewhere.
Rich says, hi, I'm back.
Hi, Rich. Welcome. Thank you for dropping by. So leave her comments. She's doing something. She forgot something, I think. So she's still on camera 2 there. I need her on camera 3.
All right, hold on.
She's getting there. Sorry, everyone. In the meantime, we'll get this Pi started up.
You don't want us to see your face?
I did also connect up my Pi screen, the TFT50 from Big Tree Tech, and have Klipper screen on it. You just install that through the Kiowa app or the Kiowa interface from Putty. So, what camera are we on? We're on 1.
You want it on this one?
Huh? Yeah, I'm showing. Yeah, there's that thing. Is it on? Is it on? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. So it's not connected. Also, I need to go to the. What are you doing? You're so distracting. We're trying to produce here, and you're over here making all this racket. Man. Okay. So I'm gonna
when you start dropping links, I gotta have a note card to take notes of all the links that you want, because I'm old and I forget.
Fine, take your notes, because I suggested it, and I've already put those links in, so I was on it this time. There'll be more. Trust me, everyone. There'll be more. So getting on my computer here. We're going to bring Putty back up and get into this Pi. So make sure we can still get in it. Pi. Please still be connected.
You do have your computer up. Look at that.
I did that wrong.
I didn't realize you.
Yeah, I got it all connected. We'll try that again. So PI. Enter. And I can't think today.
Ditto.
We're in. Okay, and the nice thing about the Putty program is it saves all the commands that you've entered in, so you just hit the up arrow until you get to what you want to. I want to bring up Kiowa here. And we are in. And from the Kiowa homepage, it tells us what we've got installed. So the only thing different is I've installed Klipper screen from here. It's the same process as doing everything else. So, what we need to do is we need to get that firmware off of here. And I've already got it done and on the printer, but I'll show you how to do it. And we'll go through that process again. It's not too difficult. So option 4, advanced, we need to build the firmware, right? Yeah. Build only to, and then let it build. And then this comes up with the firmware configuration. You want to ensure enable extra low level configuration options is on, and then select the right, sorry, my brain is, I'm in a fog right now. Select the right microprocessor that your main board has, and that should be, there's a configuration file that I have shared that has that. It's also on the Klipper webpage. There's like a basic reference for all this stuff. So that's all good. Q, and that should start compiling this. So
Jeff says, hi from Iowa.
hello, Jeff from Iowa. Thank you very much for joining. It's glad to have you here. I hope you're doing well on this wonderful day. The sun actually came out today. It was an unexpected surprise.
Ray says, hi, everyone.
What's up, Ray? All right, so we are done, and in here, if you can see, it says creating hex file, and it's going to be an out slash, or in a folder on the Pi called out, and the file itself is called Klipper.bin. Now there's a few ways to get this. There's a command you could enter directly into Putty to copy that file to the mainsail folder on the Pi, or you could use this program called WinSCP. This is an FTP kind of thing that can communicate with a Linux server. We're just going to do that for now. And it's going to be just like how you enter in with Putty. Except you put your username and password here. So PI, and then RPI123, log in. And it might give you an error code saying, are you sure you want to connect to this server? It's not, it's never been connected before. I've tested all this before, so it doesn't show me that. So we're going to go on the right side of the window is what is on the Pi, or it shows the Pi. On the left side is your computer, which is a little backwards. I like having it the other way around, but just so you know, that's how this is organized. So in the Klipper folder, go to that, and then you'll find one called out. And then you'll find Klipper.bin, and we will copy that to our desktop here. Yes, I want to transfer. All right, and it's moved it over here, so we can close that now. Go ahead and close this action. We can go back on here, and then we can quit this because we got to disconnect the USB from the printer, and then we're going to shut this down. Sudo shut down. That should shut down the Pi, I think. Maybe. Okay, we'll just do it from here. Menu, not settings, systems, shut down, printer. Done. Okay, turn that off. Turn that off.
You need to turn that for sure.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, better. Much better.
All right, we are going to snag this USB cord.
Jeff says he's got to restart his tablet. You're blurry for some reason.
Uh-oh. What's our bit rate?
1513.
That's pretty good. When you do a firmware update, whether with Klipper or any other firmware on this thing, make sure you turn on the power to the printer before, is this not? There we go. Make sure you turn the power of the printer on before you plug the USB in, otherwise it could have some connection problems. So, if I could get the direction here correct. Haha.
Rich says, so I've been a bad student. I didn't do my homework and watch part 1.
Oh no.
There will be a pop quiz, Rich, so...
You would come up with the quiz. So, if you need help with the first half of this, you can message me and I'll give you a hand. Won't be able to be tonight, probably tomorrow. I'll have some time. Also, watch part 1. It's there. And thrice, I will produce a totally an edited step-by-step tutorial on the whole process from start to finish once I get it all figured out. So we have the printer hooked up to the computer. We got to bring up
Which says no worries, I'll watch part 1 before I ask any questions.
You could ask all the questions you want, and we'll answer them. No big deal. COM4, I think this one's 6. Connect. Could not connect. Okay, we'll try 4 then. Connect.
And of course, if you have any non-Klipper related questions, please throw them at us too.
Yeah. I wonder, since I have the firmware on here already, a Pronterface may not communicate. And then if it doesn't connect, it always crashes on me. I don't know why. Where's Pronterface? In task. Come on. Okay. Yes, close the program. Thank you. Try that one more time, because I do have the Klipper firmware on the main board already. It may not talk to Pronterface very well. We'll try 3. It's probably not going to connect. Nope. Pronterface is not happy. Okay, so scratch that. What's it doing? 5? I'll try 5. Get rubbish reply from Cobb 5. Maybe bad baud rate? Oh, let's change your baud rate.
Oh, that's legitimately what it said.
Yeah.
Rubbish reply.
Got rubbish reply. So I have a feeling that the Klipper firmware on the main board may prevent it from talking nicely to Pronterface, but that's okay. On these Ruby main boards, because all I need to do in Pronterface is to put the main board in DFU mode to actually send the firmware file over to it. And that is typically done in Pronterface, but there is a, stop that. There's a jumper on the main board to put it in DFU mode, and I'm not going to get into that right now. There's, I'll put pictures of that up somewhere on the website to show that, because I don't feel like taking this apart. But before you load this firmware, this Klipper.bin, which you would rename to firmware.bin, go into Pronterface, do your M997, then go into STM32Cube Programmer and push the firmware onto it. I have a couple videos showing that. So for me to do it now, I would have to jumper it, and I'm not going to do that. And some people with older versions of the artillery board, you have to jumper it anyway, because you can't put it in DFU mode through Pronterface, through a command. Yes. You okay over there?
Yeah.
You're making faces.
We got conversations going on.
Oh, well, let's talk.
Sure.
Yeah.
Rich says this is all set up about, or after this is all set up, about how much faster should the printer be? Are we talking 10, 50, 100%?
I'm not sure. I've successfully got it printing with Klipper. I'm gonna move this over here, and I haven't cranked up the speed yet. I'm just getting it working and functioning right. From what I would expect, maybe 20 to 30% increase in print speed while maintaining the quality, because it is a bed slinger. It's not a Core XY, or the weight of that bed is a lot, and that's a lot of resonance for it to compensate for. Could you possibly get it faster? Maybe, but I would start to think that you might lose some print quality after that. But your mileage may vary. It depends on what you're printing and how you're printing and the geometry that you're printing. So, but I would say conservatively 20 to 30% faster would be acceptable for a printer like this.
Mike says the computer / whatever runs the firmware in your printer's motherboard at that point just drives the motors, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, so the Raspberry Pi runs the firmware and processes the G code, and the main board in the printer just controls all the mechanical functions. So.
And Donald says, yeah, it was about that much faster on mine with Input Shaper.
Yep.
Rich says 20-30% is a significant improvement.
Very, yeah. If you print it, you know, if you're able to get quality prints at 80 millimeters a second, then, you know, 100, 110 millimeters, would be 110 millimeters a second would be acceptable. I print pretty slow, like 60-40. I haven't cranked it up faster than that. So we're gonna fire this Pi back up. So
we had Danielle who asked, hi, I don't know much about Klipper, but I have a question. Does that work with a Sonic pad? Which we had a couple people say basically the Creality Sonic pad is a Klipper system. It's basically a computer that runs Klipper just like a Pi or a laptop. And then, where did it go? Oh, I saw another one there, but I lost it. Weird. Oh, so this setup will work with it. So I'm assuming the Sonic pad.
Yeah, supposedly the Sonic pad is just it's a Klipper host that can plug into any printer. So it's essentially just a Creality version of a Raspberry Pi that's kind of built for Klipper specifically. So it sounds really cool, and considering the price of Raspberry Pis right now, it's a good price at a little over $100, I think. Yeah. Wow. So, and you could run multiple printers at the same time, I hear. So excuse me, it seems like a really neat thing. And maybe in the future I'll mess with one, but most people are looking to do it on a Raspberry Pi right now, or people that have Pis that have been sitting around or whatever are trying to do it that way. So we're starting there. Timeout.
Ed says, hey everybody, it's Ed the Old Tech Guy.
Ed the Old Tech Guy, hey, welcome. For those of you who don't know Ed the Old Tech Guy, he does like tool and tech review stuff and kind of DIY and homeowner maintenance kind of stuff. If you're into that, go check out Ed the Old Tech Guy. Awesome content, awesome dude. Give him a look, give him a subscribe. I like him a lot.
Even if you're not into it, his energy is awesome. I don't understand half the stuff he's saying, but I enjoy watching his videos.
Yes, his energy is quite incredible. So thanks for stopping by, Ed. You're awesome. We love you, man. Yeah. So we're going to pretend that we were able to upload this firmware onto the printer because I've already done it. So from here, we will go to our browser and bring up our mainsail, which you would just do http:// and then / and the name of your printer, or the name of you've given your Pi, SWX2.local. So it's coming up there, and it should bring up your mainsail interface. Now, sometimes that won't work and it will want the IP address. This works fine on my laptop, but on my PC, I have to put the IP address in. So in order to get the IP address off the Pi, if you don't have the screen, there is a command for that. So we'll bring Putty back up and I'll show that for those of you who want to see.
And Jeff says that I'm assuming we're talking about the Sonic pad's about 159, but it's locked from what he understands.
Locked, like you can't do anything else with it but Klipper?
Maybe.
RPI 1, 2, 3. We are in, and I have my little cheat sheet here. I made notes when I was doing all this. All right, on the mainsail. All right, so this command is /SBIN.
We have RIP_XYP says, hi, do I need to flash the motherboard to use Klipper?
Yes, so you're going to generate a firmware from the Pi in a tool that you'll get into from Putty. And then I just showed how to copy that firmware file to your actual PC. It's named Klipper.bin. You'll rename it to firmware.bin, and then you'll install that to the printer's main board as you would a Marlin firmware, the exact same way. I was unsuccessful in getting the printer in DFU mode because now that the Klipper bin file has been uploaded to it, because I was testing earlier in the week, it doesn't communicate with Pronterface anymore. I didn't know that was going to happen, but if I wanted to actually demonstrate it, there's a jumper on the main board you would do to manually put it in DFU mode. And all DFU mode is telling the microcontroller on the main board that it's ready to accept the firmware. So that interconnect between the main board and Pronterface is no longer able to happen because it may not be in the Klipper firmware. I'm pretty sure that the M997 command might be a Marlin specific thing for these. So, if you have an older version of an artillery mainboard, you have to do the jumper anyway. It doesn't accept that. So, long story short, yes, you have to install a firmware on the main board, but that is generated from Klipper. So, and I did that earlier here and in the last video, and I'm also going to have a tutorial later with all this.
And Arnand is sent us something in French. I did a quick translation of it. It didn't translate well, but I'm kind of coming down to, I was really anxious to, like, nervous about starting this modification.
It can be a nerve-wracking thing because the initial process is way more complicated than doing Marlin, because you have to set up the Pi and go into, you got to shell into the Pi and do all this kind of stuff. So it is much more complicated to start out with. But once it's all done, it's pretty simple, especially if you have to make any change to what you would call the firmware, right? Instead of having to make the change, recompile, update the firmware, it's just a configuration file that you change some numbers or characters on, and you just hit restart and it just updates everything without having to upload new firmware and recompile. It's super simple after that. Plus you get a really cool web interface that you could access anywhere you're on your network, on any device. So, and we'll show that today.
And Donald says, one thing I wish this printer had was 2 drivers for the Z instead of being split on one so you could do Z tramming. I almost replaced the board with one with more drivers, but never did.
There is an extra spot on the board. You can do that. If you get yourself another stepper driver, another TMC 2100, and then you would just set it up in Marlin to have 2 Z stepper drivers, or it might even actually detect it. Yeah, in the newer version of Marlin, you would just put E1 as your stepper driver, and then E0 is obviously your extruder, but if you only define one extruder, it knows that E1 is going to be a second Z stepper.
RIP YXP is agreeing with Arnon that I think they're both talking back and forth in French. So doing a little translating here in Google.
It's okay.
But anxious as well, since right now it works. Just doesn't want to make any changes.
Right.
But would like to test it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Now, someone did make a comment on Facebook about not being able to revert back to Marlin once you do this. I'm not 100% sure that's correct, but I haven't tried it yet. So that is something I am going to try to do, because I do have other YouTube videos I'm going to do with this printer that will require it to be back on Marlin. So it will go back to Marlin, if it lets me. I'm pretty certain that it's not stuck in Klipper, that you can get Marlin back on it, but I'm not 100% certain.
Can you turn that just a little bit? Other way. Yeah.
Okay.
And Kit says, I have my Sidewinder X1 running through my Sonic pad. My ethereal board just arrived today, so I'll be adding a BL Touch to the Sidewinder X1 this weekend.
Excellent. Thank you for buying it. Thank you for your support. And excited. Let us know how it works with the Sonic pad. That's pretty cool.
And then Ray says, is the speed of the Core XY fast enough that you could just stick with Marlin?
Yeah. The biggest thing about Klipper, what makes it, what people like so much about it, is the input shaper tuning can be done with an accelerometer. So you get a really, really accurate tuning. So you don't have to do it manually. Now with the newer Marlin, you do get input shaping, but it's all manual tuning. There's no way to do it with an accelerometer, and it's still a little bit like, it's still an in development feature in Marlin. It actually says that on the Marlin thing. So I've tinkered with it and I've gotten some good results, but it's also been a little iffy on some things, especially with the tuning side. So I'm working on an easy way to tune it, and I'm gonna eventually have a tutorial on it. So, but as far as just straight up speed goes, whether it be Marlin or Klipper, your printer is going to move as fast as it can mechanically move, as fast as your stepper drivers and motors can move the pieces. What's up, honey?
Oh, things are just being real weird.
Oh.
Things aren't syncing up for me, so if you're experiencing weird stuff, we apologize.
Okay.
Mike says, I think I'm sticking with Marlin on my Viper because the new custom firmware was released that includes the same functions Klipper gives, like linear advance, tuning, and whatnot, but would go Klipper just to use a better, more powerful CPU and really run some fancy quality improvement algorithms that would bog down regular printer processors.
Okay. And that's one thing I'm not sure about, any quality improvement algorithms. I know having the Pi run the actual G code, process all that, it is substantially faster than these machines, the little microcontrollers in these machines. So I could see if there's some macros that would do improvements for quality. Yeah, definitely an improvement.
And Ricardo says, hi from Portugal. Hope we are well.
Hello, Ricardo from Portugal. I'm fine. I hope you are well yourself. Thank you for joining. Love to have you here.
And Rich is asking Kits about what he had to do to get the Sonic Pad to work with the X1. He's been thinking about going that route, as it should be simpler. It's be interesting to see how that conversation goes.
Yeah.
And Mike says, just found, for example, my printer's bed mesh can be 7x7 instead of 4x4, actually as big as you want, just limited to what the processor can handle because it uses all those points. Yes.
So now one thing you can do is you can trick it and do like 4x4 or 3x3 and have interpolation between points. And I've tinkered with that in Marlin, and I like that better. I do it on my SP5. I've gotten better results doing a smaller grid and then turn on interpolation and have, I do a 3x3 grid on it and have 2 points between each grid point of interpolation, and I get a more accurate mesh that way. So somehow, I don't know why. And then Klipper does the same thing, and it's kind of a default feature in Klipper where it's not a default feature in Marlin. So
he says, in theory, you could use a computer to power it. So in theory, if you use a computer to power it, you're not limited and can make, like, for example, 100x100 level mesh.
I imagine there's a limit. I think in Marlin's 7x7 mesh is your hard limit on that. I think it's, yeah, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is it. But that doesn't limit your interpolation. I think you could have whatever the processor can handle for that. So if you're running the stock Ruby board, I imagine you could do 7x7 with at least 2 or 3 points in between them, and it wouldn't have too much of a hard time. But if you print and you start notice buffering, then I could see that slowing the printer down. So
this is cool. Ricardo says, sorry for the off topic. On your Sidewinder X2 TFT firmware, I noticed the ABL mesh loads after G28. Is that working auto, or do we need to add the M420S1 on start G code? So that's a function of Marlin itself. In the Marlin firmware, on mine, I know I have it set up to it's called restore leveling after G28, and that's supposed to automatically load that mesh in after it, automatically load it and turn it on and use it after a G28 command is done. Sometimes it doesn't work, and I don't know why. It's random. So having M420S1 in your start G code either way doesn't hurt. I do it anyway, just because of the randomness of it. It's not super reliable in Marlin. So yeah, long story short, yes, put it in there. It helps. So does power failure recovery work? Because under Octoprint or with the Beagle print, no. It's from RIPYXP. Beagle print or Octoprint? I'm assuming with this. Oh, with Klipper? I think it does. I think there's a way to make it work. It might be a setting or a macro or something. A lot of this stuff is way more kind of manual. You have to set everything up that you want to work. And the Klipper website here, there's a ton. This is going to be your Bible. When you get Klipper and you're running it, this is your Bible, because you can go into here and it has all the installation stuff, configuration reference. So these give you, this is going to look kind of similar to how like you would do Marlin, right? You have printers, so you would give different variables or different parameters for each thing. Now, there are some parameters that are required that you have to have in your config file, and some that you don't, that there's defaults for. So if you don't have it in, it will just default to it. Like, say for instance, your fade height, right? Or your fade distance for your mesh. There's a default of it starting at 1 millimeter. So you don't have to put that in there. It'll just default to it. So, and I can show that. Yeah, we're errored there. So, where was I? Oh yeah,
getting the IP address for the Pi if you don't have a screen to get your IP address. That was sbin/if/config. I thought it was supposed to be ipconfig, right? /A, and it brings this up, and on the very, where is it, right here, broadcast.
Donald says you can, it's a bit tough. You can't flash through printer face. You have to flash through VS Code.
Okay. Well, yeah. So yeah, broadcast. This would be your IP address right here. So if you don't have a screen to check it, is that, yeah. So, okay. But since we're good, we're working, it says here, Klipper reports error. It doesn't see the printer. It doesn't know it's there. So what you have to do is you got to put in a config file. So this is the basic config that it's going to show up with to start out with, or it's going to look kind of similar. So what you got to do, there's on the Klipper page here, configuration reference, installation document, config directory. This is a list of a bunch of example configurations for a bunch of stuff, generic stuff or stuff for different main boards, but there is one for printer artillery Sidewinder X2. I started with this and kind of edited and worked my way through to make it function with this printer better. So we're going to use the one that I did, and I have it linked in the description. My configs, printer CFG. So just gonna copy all that, go back to here, select it all, and paste. And that's the whole configuration. And then, so this is essentially, this is just updating the firmware. Kind of, right? This is the settings that you would consider to have what Marlin has. So it's just save and close. And I'm still gonna get an error because it still can't see the printer. So on that config, under MCU, it wants to know what it is. So I've got it commented out here, this is what it is, but you have to find this. And the way you find it is you go back to your Putty, and we gotta go back to Kiowa.
Mike says there was an auto flasher VS Code plugin for Marlin. I couldn't figure it out. Maybe there's one for Klipper.
Maybe. I know there's like the auto build Marlin thing that builds the firmware for you. So, and I'll experiment with trying to get Marlin back on it as easy as possible. So we need to define our MCU so that the Pi can actually see and communicate with the main board here. So we're gonna go to Kiowa, go 4 for advanced, and then option 5, get MCU ID. So, and you gotta do this after you push the new firmware onto the printer. And then over USB, identifying right here. So you would highlight this, right click on it, because that copies in Linux, and then right where you see your MCU ID, we'll delete that and Control V, and there it is. And then save and restart. Might take it a second. Bam. Klipper reports error. Included in file home Pi printer data. Start CFG does not exist. Oh, yes. So in here I have include, start, configure, start CFG. So you can come up, you could add macros, and you could put it in any file, any configuration file you want. You just have to define it and point it in the right direction. So we'll close that. And so all I got to do is upload file, and I already have it here. Open, and then we will restart here. Firmware restart. And we're here. It can see the printer. It knows it's all there. So we're in. We're connected. Klipper technically works. This is your dashboard. So you can see your temperatures, some macros, and you could put in custom macros, which is really, really cool. I'm not going to show that today. But once you're here, you got to, there's like a pre-flight checklist, as I call it, that you need to do to make sure everything is functioning. And that's going to be on here. It's going to be configuration checks. Yes. So verify temperature, right? Make sure that your thermistors are correctly reading. So go back here. It says these two roughly match. So I would say they're reading. Next, verify M112. I believe this is like the emergency stop, right? This will just tell it to stop. So we'll go back here, and in the console, you could do all your console commands here, or you could just bring up a big kid version of the console. But you would type, what?
A big kid version.
Yeah. So M112, and this should, that killed it, right? So that's basically making sure that the emergency stop feature works. So if you're printing and it crashes or something happens and you need to just kill everything, you could hit emergency stop up here, and that's the same as typing in M112. So that works. So then we'll just firmware restart to get us back. All right. Next, verify heaters. So heat something up. Heat both the bed and the hot end up a little bit to make sure that they heat and they're working. So we're just going to take both of them to 50. 50, enter, and then 50, enter. So all this does is just, these are like GUI kind of macro things to enter the command, because you could do all of this command based if you wanted to, and you see it come up in the console. Set heater temperature, heater equals heater bed, target 50. So if you want to know like what something is as far as what it's referring to, like it says heater equals heater bed, target 50. You can go back to your printer config and find where you have heater bed. Let's see, extruder, heater bed, that's what it's called, right? So when you do, say you turn on the extruder, it should just be extruder temp, or what is this? What does it call it? Heater temperature, heater extruder. Yeah. So, and those are climbing and working. So we know those work. We'll give it a cool down, turn off heaters. Verify stepper motor enable pin. See, verify that all the printer axes can manually move freely. If not, issue M84 command to disable the motors. If any of the axes still cannot move freely, verify the stepper enable pin configuration for any given axis on most commodity stepper motor drivers. The motor enable pin is active low, and therefore the enable pin should have a exclamation point before the pin. So all that says, and the exclamation point thing, go back here, stepper pin has exclamation point and then the pin number, and then enable pin, right? So that's all it's asking you to do. Make sure those are there and set up right in the configuration. And then we can go to dashboard. And I don't think it will let me move anything. Yeah, see? Oh, I must have hit home. Yeah, I must have hit home or something. I was just clicking around. But if you try to move something before going home, it says must home access first, because it needs to know where it is. So we could do a home all. So everything is turning and moving in the right direction. I think before that, I guess technically before you do that, you should verify your end stops. I don't know why they have these opposite in here. So you would run this command, query end stops. So right now it shows, should show them here too, right? Maybe? It doesn't. There's a way to show them like a live view of them. I don't remember though, but it shows here X, Y, and Z are open. These are all normally open in stops, so yes. So if, for example, we get something metal here, actually no, this doesn't need to be metal. You do that again, and you have an in stop, it's going to say triggered. So if you know that your in stop isn't triggered, but it still says triggered, you would go to that in stop in the printer config file, say stepper Y, in stop pin. You would either add or remove the exclamation point to the beginning, and that reverses the logic of your in stop.
Rich says, nice Sierra touch you got there. I know someone who makes a good mount and updated firmware for that.
Thank you. Okay, but our in stops are good, everything moves fine. Next step, and I'm kind of breezing through this. Verify stepper motors. Use a stepper buzz command to verify the connectivity of each stepper motor. Start by manually position the given axis to a midway point and run stepper buzz. I didn't do this. It all works, and I know the printer worked beforehand. I don't see this as a super necessary step. If you've done this and it is necessary, please let us know. But I didn't do it. I'm not noticing any problems. Verify the extruder motor. And this, to test the extruder motor, it will be necessary to heat the extruder to printing temperature. And this one, you would just test by loading filament or when it's time to print. Obviously, that's the easiest way to test. And then calibrate your PID settings, your PID auto tune. So the stock PID settings for your heaters out of Marlin won't be the same as they are in Klipper. The Klipper uses different numbers. It's still PID, but the way it processes it all is different. So, back and forth, right? So you would do, we'll do the hot end because it's going to be the quickest, and I don't remember the exact command. So you go in here. Oh, that takes you to Wikipedia. There should be right here. PID calibrate heater extruder target 170. We're going to change that target, but we're going to change it to 210 and then go. And it is now going to calibrate the extruder for the PID auto tune. So, and then when you do your bed, it's going to be the same thing. PID calibrate heater equals heater underscore bed space target and then whatever your temperature is. But the nice thing is if you don't know, this has this website, the configuration reference and all that stuff has everything you need to know, and you can search for things, and it's all in there. Plus, there's on Facebook, if you're on Facebook, there's a Klipper Facebook page that you should get on because there's a wealth of knowledge in there, and those folks are really helpful. Plus, there's Google and a ton of people on YouTube that does all this that show exactly how to do it. So there's a massive amount of information out there for doing this. So it's definitely not, it's not like you can't find what you need. So we'll go back to here and it's doing its thing. You'll see on the graph the temperature is going to fluctuate and go. And we're just going to let that run. And what it's going to do is in your printer configuration, when it's done, I've already done it, so no big deal. We'll just do it again. It will automatically comment out your factory PID settings or whatever PID settings that you used to start out with. And then it will create new lines, new stuff at the bottom. And it shows it here, extruder control PID. So these would be the new values that it came up with from the previous tune. And you can delete all this and do it all over again, but you have to uncomment from what's up there before because it'll give you errors. It saves your mesh and all that kind of stuff. All down here, which is really nice. This is, right here, dashboard. Yeah, you can see the little wave of it going up and down in temperature, and it figures out how to hang out at the middle. And I noticed that it's, even when I've tuned a couple times, I get maybe a 1, maybe 2 degree variant as it prints, and it slowly will kind of, 10 or so minutes into the print will be pretty perfect, but that first start of it, not quite perfect, a degree or 2 off, which is well within reason. So yeah, wow, it like shot way above on this tune. Yeah. So, and it may take multiple tunings for it to really dial in. Like with Marlin, sometimes you got to do it 3 or 4 times to really get it dialed. So, any word from the crowd? Quiet bunch today?
Well, while you're waiting, you can update them on the ever-waited, I forced you into getting it done last week.
Oh, yes. The build plates, they are available for pre-order on the website. And if you've tried to pre-order and it didn't let you, I fixed that. I messed something up in there. Yeah, I saw that today. And I had to fix it. So it should let you pre-order. We're looking to get them ready to be shipped by the end of May. That is where we're at on our timing for it. So, and we have them in the gold color, 2-sided, one side smooth, one side textured, in both a 310 millimeter by 310 millimeter and a 235 by 235 for doing your Hornet, Genius, Ender 3 clone of the many types. And it will come with the magnetic sheet that sticks to your glass, and bam. So, oh, I forget how many times it goes through this, like 6 times I think it goes through. And then it tells you when it's done, and then it will automatically update your PID settings. And that's the nice thing, is it automatically updates it. You just have to save and restart. So,
Ray says nothing from the crowd. They're just in awe.
no, they're just like, this
But
guy.
you actually figured it out, probably.
Right.
All right. That's me adding that, not Ray. Just
right. Okay. Check it out. PID Parameters. So it came up with some values to save. The save config command will update the printer config file. So you could type in save_config here, or you have a button for it. So we'll save config. And done. We have new PID values in there. So, and that is a nice thing about this. If you ever need to make a change in your configuration, you just make the change, save and restart, and that's essentially the same thing as recompiling and then re-updating. And if you get something wrong, it's really, really good about telling you. So say, oh man, say I get a pin wrong, right? I put P1A7 in here for that. It's going to give me an error, hopefully. There we go. See, the pin P1A7 is not a valid pin name on MCU. Once the underlying issue is corrected, use the restart command. So we'll go back to our printer config and figure out, oh man, where did I do that, right? It said it was under MCU. So you look for, well, you could search. P1A, oh, there it is. Oh, I'm silly. I put the wrong number in there. I hit the wrong key. Let me fix that. Save and restart. And we're fixed. So that is like, for me, that's the most exciting part about this, is just being able to quickly make a change. And if you mess something up, it tells you that it's messed up. Also, for, let's see, we have a height map in here already, but we can come up with a new one. It gives you a good example of what your mesh looks like. What time is it? We got 10 minutes. We'll go to dashboard. We'll heat this sucker up. Actually, we'll show off Klipper screen here. This is cool. Temperature.
Oh, hang on.
Go back to.
Also, Rich says, so if I put Klipper on my Sidewinder X1, either through Pi or Sonic Pad, Will the MKS Gen 1 main board be a limiting factor, or does it not really matter anymore?
It doesn't really matter that. All the main board is going to do is run mechanical functions. So it's the G code gets processed in the Pi, and then the main board just does all the movement. So I was a little confused on that because a couple years ago people were talking about, oh, you have to change the main board to 32-bit for it to work. But then I saw someone talking about, yeah, you could put Klipper on a stock Ender 3, and that main board is 8-bit and way less gooder, way less capable than the stock MKS board in the X1. So yes, you can do that, and it won't be a limiting factor that I know of. Klipper screen, this is cool. So this doesn't replace the Pi OS. It's a service that runs in the background. So if you need to get to the Pi OS, you still can, which is kind of cool. But for here...
Rich says, cool, so the main board just runs the steppers and heaters, and that's it?
That's it, yep. We'll go to temperature, and I have two options here. You can change these. So go back to the computer here, sorry.
Killing me.
When you install Klipper screen, it's going to give you a Klipper screen configuration, and then you could populate it with whatever you want. So I've given it preheat PLA, extruder 210, heater bed 70, and a preheat PETG at 235 and 80. So you could populate this with all you want, and it will automatically update the screen. Really cool stuff. So we're going to preheat PLA. And then, where's the back button here? And this is essentially just a fully functional interface, like a nice touchscreen interface for a printer.
It's also very blurry.
Is it?
Yeah.
May not be totally in focus, or it's on the edge of that lens too.
Maybe.
Sorry.
Ed says, sorry, I'm back.
Hi, Ed.
Heard customer Vail didn't have to pick up.
Oh boy.
But Ed's back.
All right, we're back here, and you can see that commanded this to go. And the cool thing is, for this web interface, if you have your iPhone, Android phone, whatever's connected to your network, you could punch in your IP address or your local address for the Pi, and it will bring it up in a web browser. It's just a web browser interface. So it's super cool, and you can monitor what's going on with your printer, and then you could hook up a webcam to it and monitor the webcam from anywhere. From the network. Go ahead. I believe there is a way to monitor it, like if you're like not on the network, like online. There should be a way. I think there's a way to do that, kind of like Octoprint. So, or you could even use Octoprint as a web interface if you wanted.
So Andrew says, so do you think you're going to keep it on Klipper, or do you think you'll revert it back to Marlin?
It's a good question. Because of the YouTube videos that I want to do with it, it will go back to Marlin for at least a short while doing those videos. Because there's going to be, not everyone wants to put Klipper on their machine. And if I do a how-to video to do this on a machine that has Klipper, she's trying to look through a camera at me, right?
You're looking around the camera at me.
Right, like, hey, I can see you. Yeah. So I might go back and forth. So I know I want to try it on my Core XY machine and get that thing running, see if I can get it going a little faster. That thing's already pretty quick though, so I know I want to do a guide for the X2 and a guide for the Hornet, because as far as I know, there's no real guides for doing it on the Hornet. And I imagine the Hornet community, or if you have a Hornet and you want to put Klipper on it, it's got the same main board, it's capable. It's just building a configuration file that works for the Hornet and not that, which I can do and share. So. And the Hornet it's so good. For Ender 3 money, it is much better than an Ender 3. So,
in your opinion?
In my opinion, it is a good printer. If you're watching, you don't have a printer, or you're looking for just a good little printer to play with, the Hornet is just a super awesome printer. I love it.
Jeff says, how does the Klipper work with your phone? Is it an app or going to the web or?
It's just a web interface. You'll just bring up your Google browser. You'll type in http:// whatever name you gave your Pi installation. So for me, it's SWX2, and then .local, and it will bring it up. Like, I'll show you here.
So .locals, that,
That's,
so does that mean if they go into that, they can pull up your Klipper?
no, because it's connected to our network and not the internet. That's the .local part. So
you can't pull it up, like, if you're off the premises and you want to... This is a me question.
no, not unless you give it the ability to do so. So we'll make sure we're hooked up to the right Wi-Fi.
Because that'd be kind of a cool thing. Like,
Right.
hey, I'm on my way home. I want to start warming up my Sidewinder and print stuff when I get home.
Right. So, can you see this here? Can you see what's on the screen? Kind
It's
of.
blurry.
Oh, well, I have it typed in. Click on it, and it should go. This site can't be reached. That would happen to me, wouldn't it? Oh, DNS probe finished. Oh, so my phone wants the IP address. Is that 192.168? What was the IP address? Is it still here? Back, Q, back, quit that, let's get our IP address, 29.255.168.29.255, why is it picking that? Oh, and it Googles it, 192.168, oh, because I had double 168. 29.
3 minutes.
Okay, 255. Oh, what's it doing spaces? Okay.
Well, Jeff says I use repeater for on the road, log into my printers, and local for home. So I'm sure Klipper will.
That's
with Klipper, it'll be available.
It works. I've made it work. I don't know why it's not working now. I don't have time to mess with that.
Because you're on the camera.
Probably because I'm on camera and it's gonna. Oh, no, I don't want in that thing. So we're warmed up. Now we need a height map. So we're gonna edit this one, and I'm gonna change its name to default 1. Rename. Okay. Home the machine.
Gotta warn a girl before you start moving stuff. Come on.
Sorry. I mean, you could show the screen while I do it, right?
No.
All right. And then calibrate.
Rich says as soon as you turn the stream off on your phone, it'll come up. Or as soon as you turn the stream off, it'll come up on your phone.
Probably. So bed mesh calibrate, it comes up here with a window, and you can name it. I just leave it as default because it's going to search for that name in my start G-code macro. Calibrate. And I'm doing the slow calibration for this one.
The slow calibration with 1 minute left.
Takes about a minute.
I don't believe you.
We might have to end it while it's calibrating. That just means we could do more Klipper next week. We'll talk about macros and start an NG code and how to configure it in your slicer.
Did you give a shout out thank you to the one person we haven't seen pop up on the chat yet today?
Oh, yes. So Drew is not here today. I forgot to tell you he's getting ready to go on a trip. So Drew Graham, you might know him from previous live streams. He helped me get to this point. So big shout out to you, Drew. You are, what do they call it in Canada? A bud? You are the man, Drew. You helped me get this figured out. So greatly appreciate it. Awesome of you. But yeah, this isn't going to get done before we have to go. We can't run late today. We have errands and business to get to. So that hour went by real fast. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Thanks for joining the stream.
Kit says a good buddy.
A good buddy. I'm not your buddy, guy. Also, quick update. We are officially monetized. So take that for what it's worth.
You're going to stop.
Right. Okay, we're
Terrible.
we gotta go. Thanks for watching.
Rich says, woohoo! And thank you.
You're welcome, Rach. Yes, thanks for watching. Happy 3D printing. We'll see you all next time.